The office smelled like dust. It was on the second floor of an aging mixed-used building? Mixed used? Okay, I'm sure that means something. We're off to a great start. Light poured in from the huge window in the back that covered the whole wall, making the dust in the air look like powder snow. Powder snow. Holy smokes! The letters on the window that read, Trustworthiness Investigation Company Frieza. Frieza. Is it Frieza? Cast shadows on the desks beneath it. You're that freezer guy. There were 20 desks in all, tightly crammed together. They were all piled high with folders and papers in a way you might expect to see in a publishing office. Yeah. When I see stacks of papers, I just go, publishing office. Most of the desk's occupants were out, with only 5 or 6 people there. Only 5 or 6 people work for the Frieza company. It's the Ginyu Force. That's all that's left. But the reason wasn't because it was a Saturday. There was a schedule on the whiteboard next to the entrance, and it was packed tight with writing. Okay. Yasuji Ban opened the agency's door right at the end of lunch break. Ah, Columbo. And another thing. He'd walked in without knocking, but none of the people there had said a word. He gave them a friendly "hey there" as he headed straight for the desk furthest in the back, where a heavyset woman was sitting at her laptop. I feel like we could have just said that and not had the rest of the verbose nonsense. That doesn't feel necessary. Oh my gosh, look at her. So heavy set. This fucking rude ass game. Just a character with any level of... She looks like she's the same size as him. And like, look at how fucking fat she is. Jesus Christ. She's the president of Frieza. The woman he'd called Momo was Katsuko Momose, the president of Frieza. She had an annoyed look on her face and refused to even look up. You know, Frieza knows about New Gen. Small companies like Frieza are busy. Yeah, you should know that, detective. Only then did she look up at him. When she saw the grin on his face, she put her hand to her forehead and shook her head slightly. Yeah, I mean, they spent more time talking about how there was only 5 of you in the office and spent no time talking about what you actually are. Are they information brokers? Like... If only I knew what you did. Momose's attitude seemed to have no effect whatsoever on Ban. He waved his fan indifferently. Oh. Ban started Frieza. I started this company. I should get free shit. That's like Cody Rhodes still expecting a payday from AEW. Like, what? You're a harsh one. Frieza lady. Ban offered her a plastic bag with the logo of a local confectionery shop on it. Bribing her with sweets, because she's large. And it worked. Oh my gosh, cookies, yes. You don't need to pay for anything. Momose's attitude changed up completely. She called out to one of her employees and opened the bag to examine the goodies. Typical fat. You know, I work at a company and we had a client bake us cookies. She did not get anything for free as a result. That's not how it works. Whoa. Jump scare. Bon chuckled as he pulled a chair over from a nearby desk and sat next to Momose. A female secretary brought over 2 paper cups filled with hot tea. With the tea. Yeah, you can't just go right into it. I gotta enjoy some of these treats. Momose carefully peeled the wrapper off one of the bars, folded it up, and set it off to the side of her computer. Then she popped open her mouth and tossed the first piece of chestnut yokon in. Momose was a woman who loved Japanese confections. Whenever he wanted to know something, Bon had to bring her some kind of treat. Oh, Jesus. It's like she's talking through Play-Doh. Yeah, you should stop eating all these cookies and have you considered being less fat and giving me information for free? Wow. I think I hate everybody in this game. Yeah, fat people never find love. That's just science. Yeah, drag him. Yeah, tell him he's lazy and people in 2008 will not respect the fact that he looks like Columbo. By the time people give a shit about Columbo, you'll be very old and you won't look like him anymore. Momose shrugged and took a sip of her tea, then turned to Bon. Yeah, right? Yeah, shouldn't you be investigating? Not harassing fat office workers? I'm accosting random office workers with cookies and then telling them they need to lose weight. Bon decided to avoid the tea until it cooled down. He couldn't handle anything, food or drink, that was too hot. Oh. The weather had turned cold, but he was still waving the fan at his face. It was a habit of his. Oh, the gravity error rate. I remember that being silly. So how does this office worker know what gravity errors are? A minor gravitational error. Oh, he's just researching gravity on his own free time? Oh, fuck. Momose's voice echoed throughout the room. She was always a very forceful woman, and a loud one at that. The employees at Frisia were used to it. None of them even raised an eyebrow at the noise. Not a day went by when Momose wasn't yelling at somebody. Oh, not only is she fat, but she's rude. Bon had known her for years, too, and had been on the receiving end of her yelling dozens of times. Ironically, his reaction was to pick at his ears. Momose's tone quickly dropped. This wasn't something she wanted anyone to hear. But the smile on her face that had been there when she was eating the yokon a moment ago was now completely gone. It was replaced with a look of intense rage as she pointed her finger in his face. The whole world, it's a worldwide conspiracy to make gravity less. Oh no, not Dr. Uta. Did he create the UPA? The Metru UPA? Oh yeah, the guy who got crucified. Yeah, fuck that guy. Who cares about that guy? She called him a baka. What is it you do here? Yeah, take a sip of tea, eat a cookie, shut your fucking mouth. Momose's reaction was to go for a second piece of chestnut yokon, not the tea. Yeah, I can do whatever I want to ruin him. Fuck you. A promising youth and he's like 30. Bond shrugged. He tried taking a sip of the tea, but it was still too hot. It's making me too hot. Good thing I brought this water, Horace. Can you DDR someone into murder? They got too much rhythm, and he and increased his lust for blood. Electromagnetic wave change? Momose sighed and drank her tea. Unlike Bon, it didn't seem to bother her. She didn't give a shit about biorhythms or electromagnets or nothing. She's like, she think fucking magnets, how do they work? Don't care. Unimportant. What if they all turn into werewolves? Werewolf? There were a lot of accidents and crimes on the night of the full moon. This wasn't an urban legend. It was something you could see for yourself just by looking at Tokyo police statistics. I doubt that. Excited. And of course, only Shibuya has the crazy biorhythms. Shibuya was built on a ley line or some shit. Imagine a number you can't even imagine. Now make it bigger. Multiply it by 5. Oh, fucking Dr. Uta, he's the one who saw it. It's probably Ota, not Uta, but... Man, these guys still talking? Jeez. Oh, they're on a volcano. I'm here to tell the world. I'm here to tell the world. Come on. Oh, it's awful. An MHK, huh? I used to remember there was a show called Welcome to the NHK, and I remembered what NHK stood for, but now I don't. I would have told everyone here at Frieza. Bon leaned forward, seemingly interested. Only kind of, though. He doesn't give a shit about the plot of this game. He just wants to go home. Oh, a dark quarter of society, huh? And the gravity's real bad there. That's why it's so dark. Oh no. Yeah, huh? Momose sipped her tea, using her left hand to type into the laptop. A document appeared on the LCD monitor. It contained a list of information she'd researched on her own. Nope, I was gonna give you fake stuff. Bon gave a soft, annoyed moan. But his eyes weren't laughing at all. They were filled with the sharp insight of a detective. Because he is a detective. Like literally, earthquake style. Natural power style, Earthquake John Tenta style. I couldn't really ask Rimi to come to the base over the weekend, so I spent 2 days alone and afraid. Knowing him, probably also naked and afraid. On Friday, Rimi bought me enough food that I was able to spend the weekend entirely indoors, but I was still afraid enough that several times I almost sent her an email asking her to come over. In the end, I didn't, though. The only time I was released from my fear was the 30 minutes I was watching the latest episode of Bloodtoon. Even with all that was happening, I refused to give up Bloodtoon. That's good to know. Even in the midst of emotional crisis, you won't give up your comfort show. If Rimi was my pillar of support in the 3D world, then my 2D support was Bloodtoon, or more specifically, Seira-tan. Then the Monday after I survived the weekend, I looked at the Phantasm community on FreePara and saw that something was going on. I quickly clicked on a link that sent me to @channel. The place was in an uproar. Phantasm is finished! The real name of Phantasm's Fess is Kishimoto. She spent time in a mental institution when she was a kid. The hospital's name is AHM. Phantasm is finished. Whatever, buddy. Quisk. Whose eyes are those? Lol. What's a Fess? MJD? Maurice Jones-Drew? AHM is an institution for real crazies. Another hater. Your trolling skills suck. If you're gonna post a thread, you need a source. Yeah, right. People can't even get sources now. You think they were getting sources in 2008? No fucking way, man. You're lying. It never hit you. Fez was never in a mental hospital. You should feel ashamed for slandering somebody like that. Slander is spoken. In print, it's libel. I've never even heard of AHM. Screw you. The one watching you was me, Fess. Pound in the steak, pound in the steak, pound it straight into their lying mouths. One of you haters is going to be the next new-gen victim. One is legit. Fess was hospitalized for a long time due to mental issues. The hospital put out a newsletter with pictures, poems, and essays from their patients. You can see a bunch of poems she wrote in it. You can see one on the official site too. Her real name is Beep Kishimoto, AHM, Arc Heart Medical Group. So why is it not AHMG? Yes! I thought you guys were in love with her. Fewer rivals for me then, I guess. Yes! Lol, what? It's real. Yes! 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 Fueling the fire tonight. There's even a goddamn photo, lol. Announcement. Phantasm is splitting up. So is Phantasm finished? No, it is finished. I really liked Fess. Oh, in a sexual way. Yeah, thank you for the update there. Yes! This must be an expression of the Great Will's guidance too, right? Those lyrics aren't in a Phantasm song, are they? The one watching you was me, Ayase Kishimoto. Fess, please don't quit. I'm crying here. I kinda get it. Every genius is supposed to be a little crazy, right? No. Fess is gonna break up, I know it. We hold the Black Mass tonight! LOLI. Feston. 3 pant. Oh, equals 3. Pant. I guess Phantasm's finished, though. Honestly, I think it's a better ending for them than singing with signing with a major label and selling out. Any official comment from Fess yet? You @Chan virgins can bitch online all you want, and it won't change a thing. Fess doesn't look at the past, only the future. The next Prophecy of Death is gonna be about you losers, lol. Wait, what's the issue with this exactly? Right. There's the person inside. That's you, isn't it, Fess? You're desperate to keep your band running. We all knew Fess was crazy to begin with. Who cares? Fess had mental problems, huh? Honestly, I think that just makes her hotter. Ew. Calm down, guys. This is all just a big troll by Feston. I bet Fess went crazy because the world is filled with evil. That power awakened her punk soul. Her aggressive, intense lyrics are a cry from her soul, which has ascended to a higher dimension. If anything, we should be grateful to 12 for giving us this deeper understanding of her origins. Official sites down. I went to the URL 12 had posted. What is Heart Medical Group? What we do. Yearly calendar. Heart Medical Association was a long-established psychiatric facility that only treated the most severe patients. How much are we willing to bet that Takumi Nishijo was one of them? There was a picture of the hospital on the site, and it showed bars on the window. It looked like an old prison. Probably was, knowing how a lot of old asylums were. They designed them, and they're like, is this for medical purposes, or is this a prison? And the people in charge said, at this point, why not both? I wasn't sure if it even existed anymore. The homepage hadn't been updated for almost 4 years, and that's like an eternity. But just like At-chan had said, the site had a picture of a young Ayase Kishimoto, along with a poem she'd written. The body lurks in the shadow of a wicked heart, a thing which cannot be seen. I try and try to get away from it, but this unending nightmare shall someday become a blade and slash apart my body. A shield of indifference helps the people avoid the flames of war. The enemy on this newborn battlefield is the wicked one within the heart. Evil can sometimes have a will of its own and manifest in our world. That's not very good. I'm sorry, I know you're going through it, but it's not a very good poem. Ain't none of that shit rhymed. I wasn't really shocked or anything. I'd gone to a mental hospital when I was in elementary school too. If anything, it made me feel a little closer to her. She was just like me. For real, for real. Despite all her popularity, despite all her charisma, she was just like me. A loser. Having this in common made the idea that I had the same power she did, the power to project delusions into reality, feel more likely. It gave me courage and hope. But there was one problem. Oh, only one. Until now, I'd blindly believed everything she'd said, but maybe that was a mistake. What she'd said about how to get a D-sword, even the fact that getting a D-sword would be what saved me. I started to doubt, not what she'd showed me, but what she'd told me. Should I believe it, or... I started in fright as my phone suddenly rang. Phones always love to surprise you when you were least expecting it. Yes, the phone loves to do that. It's the phone that does it. That's why I hated them. My phone scares me. That's why I hate it. Jesus. I sighed and picked it up. It was probably Nanami. If only the phone told me who was calling. She was probably calling to complain about something again. What a nuisance. I hit the accept call button and put the phone up to my ear without bothering to look at the number. Oh, how convenient. Why did I do that? Why was this the one call where I didn't look at the number first? Dramatic tension. The melody coming out of the phone at an impossibly loud volume was Turianse. I quickly looked at the number on the phone's LCD display. It was the same number. But how? In what way? I thought it wasn't in service anymore. I'd had Nanami call it, and there'd been a message saying so. Had the person behind this prank brought it back online? I guess you just hide under the covers and hope for the best, man. I looked around the room. If Rimi was here, she could give me some advice. But she wasn't, so I'm useless. Of course not. Rimi was at school right now. I told her I wasn't going today, and she hadn't come to wake me up. The melody kept playing as I sat there freaking out. I don't know how to hang this thing up. Shit, it's like 2008. That thing's guaranteed a flip phone. You just snap that shit shut. It's like a clam. When I'd had it up to my ear a moment ago, I could hear other faint sounds besides Tudianse. The sounds of people walking, of car engines. So it had to be outside. Didn't they say Tudianse is what plays when they cross the street? I thought we had already determined this. Who was phone? I could only think of one person who would pull a prank like this. Shogun. I turned to Seiratan. A fat load of help she is. Shouldn't mention the word fat. They might give me a treat and try and get information out of me. He's actually asking the... Okay. Seiratan smiled the way she always did. I should have done that from the start. Yeah. I put my thumb to the end call button, but for some reason, I decided to listen to the Tudianse melody just a little more before I hung up. Sometimes, whenever you would have somebody would have one of those ringtones that they paid for, and it's like, the person on the other end of the line would like you to listen to the song, and you're like, all right, I kind of fuck with that, and then it's like, leave a message, boop, and you're like, fuck you, man. How dare you? It felt so strange. I wanted to hang up, but almost unconsciously, I put the hand with the phone. I put the phone on her up to my ear. Uh-oh. It came in a flood from the receiver. I think I broke it. An incredible pain. A violent sound like a supersonic wave. The sound infected my body. My head felt like an impact. Felt an impact like it had been struck by lightning. My whole body froze. I screamed, but I couldn't even hear my own voice. I boiled over. My heart. They boiled and bubbled and toiled and troubled and started to melt. The pain tore through my body, ripping through my flesh. My mind turned to liquid and raced through my body, converging at my heart and exploding into a fine mist. Is it over? Is he dead? Did we just beat the game? It felt horrible, crazy. I couldn't even think about what had happened to me. Yeah. Bad end? It's continuing. When Yua Kusunoki opened her eyes, she could see that all hell had broken loose in Class 3B. Her class. Oh. Had to use the proper hand. Several of the students were lying on the ground. Their eyes had rolled back in their heads. They were foaming at the mouth, spasming and jerking. In class? Bold. Usually you wait to get home for that. Several of the others were curled up into little balls, clutching their heads in pain. The rest were standing up, one after another, and leaving the room, even though it was the middle of class. The teacher was too busy helping the ones who were having seizures to stop them. The students in the hallway were all yelling in shock, but Yua didn't hear what they were saying. Her phone had been going off inside her skirt pocket. She finally realized it was buzzing and slowly reached a hand toward it. Hello? She tried to stand up, but she staggered and fell from her chair. She crouched and leaned up against the wall. Like she pressed the A button in a 7th gen third-person shooter. After putting her glasses back up against her face, anime style, she pressed the answer call button and put the phone to her ear.
Hi.
I thought she was up against the wall. And she just crouched in the middle like, hello? Who's this?
Hi. はい。一応大丈夫です。
Oh, she said Daijobu. It's never Daijobu. She winced after she said that and put a hand to her forehead like, it's not Daijobu, I should have known. She could hear the voices of her classmates talking noisily outside. Don't they know she's on the phone? How rude. And her teacher shouting at the fallen students to wake up. Get the fuck up, it's the middle of class. But all this seemed to be happening very far away.
はい。あなたは、はい。はい。そうですか。それで、
Her face suddenly turned pale as she gulped. In cartoon style, just... She covered the phone with her hand and dropped her voice low. It was clear from her tone that whatever she'd heard had rattled her.
そんなわけないんです。
I have to kill Takumi Nishijo?
だって、本当は。
She stopped and let her hood droop. Her hood? Is her blazer a hoodie?
本当は、私、だったのに。
The noise outside grew louder. Everyone was looking in the same direction, pointing fingers with fearful expressions on their faces. The windows in the hallways were rattling like they'd been hit by a gust of wind.
はい。
Yes, yes, sob.
そうです。
Son of a bitch!
私の妹です。はい。
Oh no, not the Emoto.
わかりました。
She bowed weakly, as if the person she was talking to was right in front of her, and hung up the phone. Then she looked up and toward the direction of everyone was pointing. The sky. Was it like... It was like someone had poured white paint on a pool of water's surface. Or it looked like there was a big old cloud in the sky. The muddied blue of the sky was turning white. It was spreading at incredible speed. It was devouring the sky.
白く染まっていく。
Yay! Chapter 6. Noah, whoever that is. Oh boy, Columbo. Yasuji Ban was finally released from the long task force meeting and should have felt much better. But today, things were different. He walked away from the other detectives and toward the windowsill, where he called his junior partner. Sua hadn't shown up for the meeting today. Ban had wanted to skip it too, so it didn't seem fair that Sua got to. Sua might not look it, but he took his work extremely seriously. At least that's what Ban had thought, so he was surprised when Sua skipped. He tried to get a hold of him several times, and there had been no answer. Sua, I think he is, F-U-Q-T. Fucked. Ever since Ban had talked to Momose 2 days ago, he'd had a bad feeling that wouldn't go away. That's what happens when you go to Frieza Company. And things had gone even worse today. Not only was Sua missing, when he'd brought up the GE rate during the meeting, Matsunaga had told him he was being ridiculous and needed to stop wasting everyone's time. And these things are equivalent. Please don't let anything else happen. Ban sighed a little as he fanned his face. He heard the call being picked up and Sua answered. Oh, fucking Baka style. The connection was really bad. Bon wondered if Sua had gone off somewhere deep in the countryside. Yeah, I'm abandoning this shit crazy style. Bye-bye. Bon yelled. He stopped being able to hear Sua at all, and instead there was a small period of nothing but static. Good. You son of a bitch! Sua shouldn't have been going off on his own. But Bon had a nasty habit of doing just that. He chuckled. Maybe his bad habits had rubbed off on his junior partner. Yeah. Don't you hate that when you got somebody who sets a bad example and then blames the other person for following in the bad example? Incontrovertible proof. Uh-huh. Bon's eyes went wide. Yeah. Just get back here. No. Oh, fuck. Powerless to stop him. That's fine. That's it. He said Daijoubu too. It is never Daijoubu. Swa, swa. Suddenly the ground started to shake. Uh-oh, did the Frieza company walk into the building? An earthquake in Japan? The shaking got more and more violent. Bon couldn't even stay standing. He dropped to a crouch to keep from falling over. This is a big one. At first, the other detectives seemed unconcerned, but they soon realized the seriousness of the situation and began to crouch or hide under tables. The clock on the wall, the pens and paper cups on the table, the projector device, one after another they fell to the floor with a crash. The two whiteboards in the conference room fell too. It was like a passenger jet that ran into a stream of turbulence. Yes, that's how that happens. That's what happens when that goes on. That's how it felt to Bon. Like his legs weren't even touching the ground. I guess that's kind of a feeling you can get on a passenger aircraft. The shaking was spinning his body left to right. Going like this, going like this. It was probably a 5 or 6 in intensity. Is this the next big one? And now of all times? Then Bon felt a strong shock, like someone punched him in the head. He moaned in pain. No one had physically punched him. It was just an incredible headache. Yeah! Suddenly a scream filled the conference room. Bon gritted his teeth and looked up, and saw one of the local detectives had his hands pressed up against his head, trembling with pain. And then he fell helplessly to the ground, like a doll dropped by a child. I don't want to play with you anymore. Most of the other detectives were either wincing in pain, their hands against their temples, or holding their heads. What was this headache? He'd never felt anything like it before. Did it have something to do with the earthquake? Bon had no way of knowing. Oh, look at that. Look at that V and H punch going on right there. I know that command. I used it a lot in my own video game. House in the Abyss. Available at the itch link in the overlay. Little by little, the shaking stopped. Bon looked outside, vision blurry. There was white light everywhere. It was so bright, Bon couldn't keep his eyes open. Sounds like a skill issue. Ugh. I opened my eyes, feeling a pain so strong I thought my head would burst. I realized I'd fallen backwards into the middle of the room. I tried to get up, but when I did, oh no, all of his fucking shitty figures. are broken. Literal thousands of dollars ruined. Hard to say that I feel bad for him, because I don't. I tried to get up, but when I did, the pain in my head spread through the rest of my body. I moaned in agony. Oh no, Seira-tan, she might be broken. After 5 minutes or so of writhing on the floor. 5 minutes is a long time to just be doing that. The pain gradually subsided. I managed to use the bedpost as a support to climb back up. I wiped away the thick sweat. Thick sweat? Was he sweating condensed milk? My room looked like it had been hit by a tornado. It looked like that before, though. All of my wives had either toppled over or fallen off their shelf entirely. The bed was now tilted, and my manga and H-game boxes had fallen off it and scattered onto the floor. Oh no, what had just happened? I'd picked up the phone and then heard Turiance, or however you actually pronounce it, and then it had turned into what sounded like an ambulance siren. That's right. There had been that buzzer sound, and then the low sound of the earth rumbling, and then it felt like my whole body had boiled and melted. I didn't remember anything that happened after that. My mind was a total blank. Yeah. Also, that was the case before. Was this some kind of electromagnetic wave attack by Shogun? Maybe Shogun could do the same thing as that system I'd read about in the patent. I don't remember how that thing worked. That's what happens when you play a game twice a week. The idea terrified me. I looked up at the ceiling, still reeling from my headache. Of course, there's nothing to see here. If my mind was being read, it was being read by a satellite high above me. High above me. It's so lovely. It's so high. Nah, there's no way. There's no way. But from what Senna had said before, it sounded like the system in the patent was already in use, and some people were using it for evil. If one of those people was Shogun? Ruh-roh. No, that was impossible. There was no way that could be true. That frail, old man looked like he could die at any minute. There's no way he could have his own orbital satellite. Or was he at the center of some big government project? Yeah, old people don't get satellites. Especially not in those days. There was no point in starting a delusion and scaring myself to death with it. It was clear that something had happened, so I decided to look online and find out what. Yeah, buddy, I don't know if your computer's gonna work. Call me crazy, but looking like it might be a little worse for wear. I crawled toward the computer, trying my best to ignore the pain in my head. I was sure I'd left my computer on. It should have been displaying the Seira-tan screensaver, but instead the screen was black. I should always be looking at Seira 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I hadn't set it to go into standby mode automatically, so that shouldn't happen, but my mind was still foggy. My whole body felt frail and weak. It took all of my strength just to stand up. I grit my teeth to help with the pain and tried to move the mouse. Nothing. Next, I tried the power button. I'm glad he's walking us through all of the steps of troubleshooting. This is good. Anybody who ever calls into IT for to fix problems should play this section of Chaos at Noah, so they can learn all the steps of troubleshooting. Groucho Soft Min doors. Perfect. Perfect. The hard disk started to whir and click. I slumped into my computer chair with a thud. While I waited for my computer to boot up, I reached out a desperate hand for my phone, which was still lying on the table. I looked at the time.
13時
Well, 1 o'clock. Whoa. What time had it been when I got the call? I remembered I was looking at information on ISA on Atchan. I tried to think, and the pain just got worse. Doesn't that suck? Just the act of thinking is enough to hurt you. What time? Think, remember. That's right. It wasn't even noon. Which means...
1時間以上も
That's not that bad. I've napped for longer than that. I've napped longer than that when I really shouldn't have. Or had I been sleepwalking and been off wandering somewhere for the past hour?
僕はもう有病じゃない
I shook my head before my brain could fill itself with more negative thoughts. When I did, the aching in my head made me feel like I would pass out. It was like my brain had been replaced by a lump of lead. It feels like your brain is made up of lead. Because the way you act, you are the human equivalent of lead poisoning. I looked over at the PC monitor. Oh no,
おい
it red screened.
マジで
Oh no. Check with your hardware vendor for any BIOS updates. Disable BIOS memory options such as caching or shadowing. If you need to use safe mode to remove or disable components, restart your computer. Press F8 to select advanced startup options and then select safe. Technical information, stop! Address F59B1966, base at F5998000A, date star 40091D3CC. Beginning dump of physical memory. Bumping physical memory to disk. Could it be my hard disk was damaged? No, it can't be.
そんなのありえない
It's the end of the world as we know it. Of course. Of course that's what he's worried about. Priorities. Of what? My schedule that told me when to go to school. And more than anything, oh, SATA.jpg is gone. My ESO save data. That shit's all saved local? Oh, that sucks. He didn't have cloud storage. He wasn't saving to the cloud. Oh, that's rough, buddy. Was it all gone? It couldn't be. Because how are you accessing this shit when you go to the fucking net cafe? I wanted to scream in rage. I wanted to pound my fists into the keyboard. I wanted to kick in the walls. More than anything, I wanted to see if it could be recovered right this very instant. Yeah, I do kind of understand that. You know, one time when I was working on my video game, I thought after a crash I'd lost like everything. And I was so upset I threw my hat on the ground. And then I got better. But my whole body was still heavy and slow, and my head still ached. All I could do was lie back in my chair and bite my lip. It was over. It was over. My life was over. The loss of my ESO save data meant my life no longer had any meaning. Might as well jump. Go ahead and jump. Nothing mattered anymore. My life was nothing but ash and dust. Somebody just kill me. That poor man. I hope someone does kill him. Seda looked up from where she was lying sideways on my desk and gave me an angelic smile. See, me and the candy corn and the cotton candy colored hair girl with the titties. We're on the same page. Don't worry, Takumi Nishijo. We're looking out for you. Did she mean the game company server?
だからたとえタッキーの PC が壊れてもナイトハルトッチのデータ
For somebody who plays the game 100 hours a day, he sure doesn't know much about how it works. Oh, right. This was something every gamer knew, but I was so out of it I'd forgotten. Yeah, I knew this stuff. I'm not stupid. I felt like I'd found one small sliver of hope amidst the despair, amidst the Zetsubo. Way to go, my wife. One day my journey will end. I hadn't made any backups of my pics or MP3s, so I'd have to give up on those. It wasn't ideal, but I didn't have a choice. I still wanted to start reformatting my computer as soon as possible. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I just found myself so funny that it made me yawn. I needed to see if my ESO data was safe with my own eyes. With my... Whose eyes? Your eyes? Whose eyes are those? Of course, for that, I need this headache to go away. That's true. I find it impossible to work when I get a headache. That's valid. I'll give him that. The pain didn't feel like it was going away anytime soon. Okay. Anyway. Yep. Shibuya earthquake. Magnitude at least 5. At least 200 casualties. Dang. On a category 5? That's crazy. Big televisions outside Shibuya Station usually played commercials or promos or famous music artists. Today, however, they were showing a stern-looking newscaster. It was a TV show with the following text at the top of the screen. Intensity 5 earthquake hit Shibuya, at least 200 casualties. Earthquakes were nothing special in Japan. There had been several earthquakes around a 5 on the scale, even around Tokyo. But as more information started to come in, it became apparent that the number of casualties was abnormally high. Yeah, that did seem like a big number. Yeah. There was a similar earthquake in 2005, and not a single person died. Compared to that, this was almost unbelievable. Yeah, look at all those people not giving a shit. This was even more true when you consider that it happened in Shibuya, the center of the New Gen murders. Man, I mean, I don't want to downplay it, but I mean, there's only been 5. 5 events, I should say. There was one where they got like 5 people, but still. There have been 5 events. I had a joke there, but I've decided to abandon it. Probably better for everybody. There had been an earthquake 3 months ago in Shibuya, too. That one had only been a 3 on the scale, but 8 people had died. Was Shibuya cursed? 2 earthquakes and 5 murders? I just feel like you need a little bit more for it to be, a curse. Either way, the first special broadcasts about the earthquake were ready to go almost as soon as it started. Right now, there wasn't a lot of solid information or clear numbers, but the female newscaster was reading out a script. The Fire and Disaster Management Agency has confirmed at least 31 deaths, and is expecting that number to grow even higher. The cause of deaths is currently unknown. And the earthquake was the cause of death. But that says at least 200. And they, unless they're just calling casualties as just killed, wounded, and missing. So, maybe. There were also reports of a mysterious white light in Shibuya after the earthquake, a shockwave, and the sky turning white. The cameras at Shibuya Scramble Crossing had seen the light, and were abandoning ship. And the big TVs were showing the footage they'd taken where everything had turned white just after the quake. You see, somebody has hit us with a giant flashbang, Call of Duty style. They got that 3 kill streak, and their UAV is online. The light covered Shibuya in an instant, and was so bright that no one could keep their eyes open, like an eclipse. Anyone from the generation that lived through the last war would have immediately thought it was a nuclear weapon. In fact, there were those who had seen a white mushroom cloud rising hundreds of meters in the sky above Shibuya, but it had dissipated almost instantly. What the light was, what caused it, and what it had to do with the earthquake were, for the moment, total mysteries. Unsolved mysteries. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. No, that's not right. That's not right either. I have no rhythm. The strangest thing was that the white sky had gone back to normal within an hour, and once more a murky blue color lay above the heads of the people of Shibuya. I'm still trying to think of what the Unsolved Mysteries jingle actually is. No, I just can't do it. That's okay. There was a tiny crack. Just a tiny crack. Just a few millimeters in the asphalt around Dogenzaka Hill. There were also small cracks in the walls at some of the mixed-use buildings around Center Street. Oh no, not Frieza Company. Oh damn, he got it back up to its disgusting state almost instantly. Good for him. My headache hadn't gone away. It took around 2 hours to reformat the hard drive. I'd almost passed out several times from the pain. I'd gone to sleep in the middle of something before, but this was my first time really passing out from something. This guy ain't got no ibuprofen or nothing? I keep ibuprofen as like within arm's reach almost. You gotta be ready to handle headaches, especially if you're on your computer all the time. Still, the pain was a lot better than it was 2 hours ago. I drank some soda to quench my thirst. Soda ain't gonna quench your thirst, brother. And steeled myself to get to work. I put the bed back where it was, giving myself a place to stand on the floor. It was hard, considering how weak I was, but if I didn't clean it up, I wouldn't be able to leave the place. If I was trapped inside and unable to escape during Shogun's next attack, not that I knew for sure if the earthquake was his doing, I'd be doomed. I needed a way to get out. When my operating system was finally back, I headed over to my computer and installed ESO. And I tried logging into Baselard. Dude, if he is banned from the game, it would be I would love it. Ah.
やったナイトハルトは消えてない装備とかも全部無事だ
I was so excited that I tried to stand up and raise my fist in the air, but I was too exhausted. Still, I was so happy to see that such an important part of me hadn't disappeared after all. Now then, with that done, it was time to see what had actually happened. Personally, I wanted an apology and compensation from whoever was available. I would like to speak with the Earth's manager, post-haste. It felt like an earthquake, but there were so many things that didn't make sense. As a knower-abouter of earthquakes, I looked to see if Grimm was playing, but he wasn't. I went to our usual chat room. That was harder with my bookmarks gone, and he wasn't there either. What good was he if he wasn't here when I needed him? Yeah, that's what I think about my friends. What good are they if they're not around? I ended up checking the top page of Taboo instead. More than 200 dead. More than 300 injured. Intensity 5 quake in the Kanto region. Dead baby found in man's stomach. Baby put in man's stomach before death? We're at more than 200 dead, more than 300 injured. We're at 500? Holy shit. There had been an earthquake, from the look of it. It was a 5 on the scale. There were an awful lot of casualties, though. Supposedly the number was likely to go higher than 200. There was other stuff, too, about how the sky above Shibuya had temporarily turned white, or a big mushroom cloud above the city, but nobody seemed sure what they had to do with the earthquake. And Ad-chan was talking about it, too. Most comments were things like, Shibuya again? Oh, excuse me. Burping. Or Shibuya's screwed. There were videos uploaded, too, and I could see what the cameras in Scramble Crossing had recorded.
これ地震だけじゃないよね
I'd felt an incredible headache when the quake hit. No, it was way worse than just a headache. It felt like my brain was boiling over. You could cook ramen in my skull. Because it was boiling. And even 2 hours later, there was still an aching pain, and I still felt exhausted.
電子レンジに閉じ込められたらあんな風になるかもしれない。
Maybe, yeah. If that was the case, maybe my ideas about this being some kind of electromagnetic wave attack from Shogun weren't just delusions. Then I heard a noise. Oh, gotta adjust. There we go. This chair. It was the sound of somebody joining the chat room. It might have been Grim. I turned my eyes toward the chat window to ask him the details. It's gonna be Shogun for sure, isn't it? Yeah. Oh no! A scream slipped from my lips. Jump scare. Why would he show up now? Had he been reading my thoughts after all? My hand was shaking on my mouse. The rest of my body had frozen with fear. Even the pain in my head was gone. I didn't even want to look at the word Shogun, but I couldn't take my eyes off the monitor. I wanted to leave the chat room, but it was like my mind had left my body. I couldn't even move the mouse. It's like early style Unfriended. It's crazy. I felt the prickling on my neck. I was being watched again. It was the gaze of God. It was me. I'm the gaze of God. Or maybe it wasn't God, but Shogun, looking at me from satellite orbit. Maybe. I wanted to run away. But where? You could find me anywhere in Japan. Hey, it's been a while. That was the first thing he said. He was talking like he was greeting an old friend. But I never remembered being his friend. I bit my lip and stared at the characters on the screen. But after he spoke, I found myself able to move again. I grabbed my phone. 911, help! There's a man in the chat room. It was just past 3 p.m. She might still be in class, but Rimi might be able to help me, believing that was my only choice. I called Rimi's number. It was easy to find because it was one of only a few in my contacts. Yeah, we know, man. You ain't got no friends.
助けてリミ
Tasukete, Rimi. Ugh, what a sad sack. Do you hate me? It hurt to breathe. I couldn't think. Rimi wasn't picking up. The phone kept ringing and ringing. Why don't you always show up when I'm in trouble? Why aren't you here now? I'm sending you a present. It's gonna be a head in a box. A present? You're sending me another one of those pictures? And this time you're gonna make me out to be the new gen killer, aren't you? No, I'm not the killer. I'm not a coward. Ha ha ga. I felt like a fish that had flopped onto the land. I wasn't getting enough oxygen. My head felt like it was full of fuzz. You know, like a fish. My only hope was Rimi. I gripped the phone tighter, praying and focusing on every sound that came out of the receiver. It picked up. The person you are trying to reach has a mailbox that is full. Goodbye. Voicemail. Oh no. I can't operate regular speech. I hung up the phone, disappointed. Disappointed? I wrapped my arms around myself to keep steady. My body had started to shake. I was more afraid of Shogun than I thought I was. Of course I was. He was pretending to be disabled. Whoa! You don't know that. But He was a murderer who'd killed people 5 times. And I was his next target. Go, the goo again. Go. Until now, Nimi would always appear at just the right time, but she hadn't picked up the phone. My eyes fell on the fake D-sword in the corner of the room. I picked it up, clinging to the small hope that it might somehow help. It was just a toy. ISA had said so, and she'd been sure. But maybe she was wrong. At least, I wanted to hope so. Okay. If I had a D-sword, I'd be saved. I could even defeat Shogun's attacks. So please. I raised the D-sword. I focused on the cutting edge of the blade. Please, be real. Save me.
ディソード真の姿を現せ
Closed my eyes tight and gripped the pommel hard. Silence. I opened my eyes a little. Nothing had changed. It was just a toy. I slammed the toy sword into the ground. King Arthur's gonna pull that out later. Lady of the Lake style. I bit my nails, trying to figure out what to do, Yoshikage Kira style. But the fear threatened to crush me, and I couldn't think. Whenever I tried, the pain in my head would come back. There was nothing left to do but go back to the PC. Shogun left the room. Shogun had already left the chat. The only traces of him were the 4 lines he'd left. I didn't even want to see the words he'd written, so I quickly left the chat myself. I was still shaking. Shogun was taunting me. What was so funny about stalking me like this? Did this mean that I'd been chosen as the next victim, and Shogun was finally ready to put his plan into action? We can only hope. Or that I was the perfect patsy to take the fall for his murders.
誰か助けて助けてよ
Hopefully no one does. I looked to post-awakening Seiratan, pleading for her to save me.
一人は怖いんだ
Sadly, I am only an eel. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted someone to be by my side. I wanted somebody to protect me.
そうだ学校だ
Make up for how useless I am.
学校へ行けば
Rimi was there. I couldn't handle being alone and scared anymore. I stripped off the sweatshirt I always wore when I was at home, quickly changed into my uniform, and left the base. Okay. The cold wind outside made my headache feel a little better. Shibuya seemed more tense than usual. Maybe it was the earthquake. Yeah, maybe. I could hear the sounds of sirens in the distance. When one stopped, another started. I couldn't tell if they were fire trucks or ambulances. Probably both. Yamate Street, just one street over from where I was walking, was at a standstill. Several cars had been in head-on collisions and abandoned where they sat. There was no sign of the drivers. Oh no, is this Left Behind? Ugh, we've gone into a terrible franchise. The abandoned cars were blocking the road and causing a traffic jam. The other drivers were furiously banging on their horns, honking at cars with nobody in them. Just, get out of my fucking way, nobody! As I slowly and unsteadily walked toward the school, a dog ran past me, howling. It was a Chihuahua with bloodshot eyes. Its tiny body was running at full speed, dragging a leash behind it. Drool was pouring from its open mouth. Had it gotten separated from its owner? The humanless leash didn't do anything to clue you into that, bud. Goodness gracious. As I watched it, distractedly, I stumbled over something and almost fell. There was a crack in the ground. That's what I tripped on. Did the earthquake cause the crack in the ground? Gee, I wonder. I stopped and looked up at the sky. There were several clouds now, lazily traveling through the muddy blue sky. Muddy is an interesting adjective that they keep using. Why muddy? Supposedly, the sky had gone white like an aurora right after the quake, but there were no traces left of that now. This wasn't the Shibuya I knew. I felt really tense and uneasy. It wasn't just the earthquake. It wasn't just the headache. It wasn't just those things. It felt like a terrible urge was going to overcome me at any second. Reet, 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 reet. Fucking Psycho style. Just walking down the street, for some reason, made me want to kill someone. Oh. By the time I reached the school gate, the terror and fear within me had grown even stronger. Uh-oh. I felt so cold that my body wouldn't stop shaking. My headache had come back. I could see a crowd near the third-year students' building. And we all know who was a third year, right? Yuo Kusunoki. I looked for Rimi there. Strangely, they were all looking up at the school building. What the fuck do you want? Misumi ran up to me. I said, hey, what's up, man? Please leave. Good. I could ask him where Rimi was. I didn't. He looked pale, and his expression was deadly serious. It was rare to see Misumi so badly shaken. What had happened? An earthquake, you insensitive prick. Bad? What was bad? She was sick, right? Oh no. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. I could hear voices around me saying those things. Could it be? A terrible thought ran through my mind. I looked up, slowly, for dramatic effect, to where the rest of the students were looking. I believe that is not a song we should sing. And it's a shame, too, because it fits in a lot of great places. At the edge of the roof was a girl. She was holding the D-sword. Ugh. Just like she had in her concert. She was standing there like she was offering a prayer to God in heaven. Or she's filming the music video to Bring Me to Life by Evanescence. It was Ayase Kishimoto. Do a flip. Aw, she's crying. Ayase Kishimoto was feeling the wind on her body. It was cold, with just the slightest hint of winter. Her expression was pained, and beads of sweat were dripping down. Everybody in this game is super fucking sweaty. They all be sweating crazy style. And we live in an endless nightmare. Suimei Academy's roof was surrounded by an almost 2-meter-high fence. She was standing in the narrow 30-centimeter space on the outside of it. She'd been here for almost 10 minutes. One more step, and she'd fall off the roof of a 4-story building. Below her was a crowd of students, watching with bated breath. Angel of the Blade, Kingslayer. They'd called for police and an ambulance, but perhaps because of the earthquake a few hours ago, No one had arrived. No one who noticed or even cared. Or whatever the old Rose says in Titanic. I don't remember. It's been a while. The teachers were running around trying to get mats ready. Mats? Yeah, put out a few tatami mats. That ought to cushion the fall. Y'all don't have any crash pads? I'm telling you, that's why every school should have a pro wrestling club. Because then you could pull out the crash pad. And then you could just jump off shit. I am bad at advice. She's still talking. But Ayase stood tall and still, like the chaos below had nothing to do with her. If anything, it looked like she was deliberately cutting herself off from the world below. Her head was tilted up at the sky, and her eyes were closed. She looked almost like a young priestess praying to her god. That you've already said a similar analogy. Get on with it. Her body was completely motionless in the slight wind on the roof. An impressive feat of balance considering the sword she was carrying was almost her own height. Oh, that's like the poem she wrote when she was in hospital. The sword, her D-sword, was flashing with a pale light, like it was having trouble breathing. Ayase's own breaths seemed to be in sync with the light, and her own breathing was pained. She let out a small, soft whisper. Only sometimes, though. The words she whispered were quickly drowned out by the wind. Ayase opened her eyes, turning toward the amber-red sky above the Shibuya high-rises. I'm all done dealing with them. Fuck that. Everyone loves the misery of others. As she whispered, she brought the huge sword to her chest. She embraced it with both arms. Strangely, the sharp-looking blade didn't pierce her skin at all. She wants to go home. To the other world. Once you reach the other side. Of doing what now? Ayase's expression twisted with sadness. Tears silently fell from her eyes. The wind blew them off her face and into the sky. Do what? What is stirring within the who now? Excuse me? I don't know. I've got a whole album out. That's not enough? It's never enough. It's never enough, sis. You gotta keep going. Whatever you do, it's gotta be better than the last thing you did, or else it doesn't count. Ayase slowly spread out her arms, as if she was trying to embrace the sky, and lean forward, as if she were showing herself to some god high in his heaven. High in his heaven. I shall fly. The sword's pale pulsation grew in intensity. Ayase closed her eyes again. A final tear fell from the corner of her eye. Bye-bye. And the girl stepped forward without the slightest hesitation. There was nothing left there to support her body. Whee! Take it to where it belongs. She felt the cold wind gently blow against her cheek. She looked down beneath her. Oh, that's coming up really fast, don't you think? Oh, the death note. Somebody cut a square into the ground. She saw a floating door rising towards her. Beyond it was the sky she sought. Whee! All I could do was watch, helplessly. Ayase spread out her hands. Can you take me higher? No. Screams and loud murmurs rose from the crowd of gawkers. Fuck gawker. No longer supported by anything, she fell like a puppet with its string cut. Kingslayer. I told you I already made the Bring Me the Horizon reference. I can't do it again. Everything was happening in slow motion. I'll fucking say. This whole game is in slow motion. Ayase's body fell. It fell so slowly. But there was no stopping it. She was going to die. Ayase was going to die. There was no way I could help her. If she fell from that height, she'd die for sure. The ground below her was solid concrete. Her bones would shatter, her organs would be smashed, her brains and dark red blood would be splashed all over the place. If there was at least a flower bed there, or a, oh Lord, can you put a mattress truck? If there was soft earth instead of concrete, no, she would still die. Soft earth? What the fuck? If only she fell in sand. Maybe she'd survive. No. I didn't want to see anyone die. I tried to close my eyes, and then I felt it. The prickling at the back of my neck. I turned. Nobody was looking at me. Everyone was looking towards Ayase or down at the ground. Whose eyes are those? The fuck sound effect was that? I heard a noise. The sound of someone hitting the ground. I'd never heard that sound before. It was less loud than I thought it would be. I thought she'd be filled with dynamite. Misumi was standing next to me watching in shock. He was looking where Ayase had fallen, but instead of showing fear or sorrow, his expression was one of surprise. It wasn't just Misumi either. The whole crowd of gawking onlookers had fallen silent, like they weren't sure what had just happened. And neither am I, because the screen's black. He's alive! Huh? Alive? Oh, I'm still alive. Hey, I'm still alive. Oh. Had her bones shattered? I couldn't tell. Had her organs been smashed? I didn't know. She landed in flowers. Her brains weren't splattered all over the place. Her dark red blood wasn't anywhere to be seen either. She looked like she had just fallen into a cutscene of Final Fantasy VII. Ugh. A soft but clearly audible moan escaped her lips. She was alive. She had passed out and wasn't moving at all, but she didn't seem to be injured. The most I could see was a small trickle of blood on her forehead. Somebody had poked her. She'd fallen all the way from the top of the roof, but now she was almost... you call that unharmed? She was lying on top of the flower bed. Had there been a flower bed there? No, somebody turned the TV off. What the fuck? That dude's beard, like fucking Monkey D. Garp over there. It was supposed to kill everyone. We ain't got that kind of time, sir.
進化には多少の犠牲はつきものという点については異論はない。
死人のことなどどうでもいい。重要なのは予定と違うということだ。
想定の範囲内ですよ。私の中では。
ならばなぜ事前に我々へ連絡せんのだ。
What is
情報を
going
コ
on
ン
here?
トロールするにはそれなりの下準備が必要なのだぞ。貴様の推挙のために人や金を犠牲にしてきたわけではない。それを忘れ
I'm
る
sure
な。
it's going to be very sensical when it's revealed whatever these fucking clowns are up to.
ご安心を。先ほど申しました通り、すべては想定の
I'm so
範囲。
evil. I don't care how many people die in my weird earthquake experiment.
いずれ近いうちに選挙での票集めに
In 2008, a guy like this seemed like way too evil to ever be real. But in current year, oh man,
我々が日本
it's almost expected.
口を慎め。
The Committee of 300.
の造反が知れれば我ら
君の役目は計画通りにことを進めることであって。
調整は我々がやる。
Yeah, it's a good thing we're seeing this.
承知しています。
それで第二世代
On the second generation, about babies.
お二人にも満足していただける仕
Be
上がりです。
completely satisfied with the babies.
ノア2。
Noah 2? We're already at Noah 2. This is Chaos had Noah 1. Oh my god, there's already Noah 2. I didn't remember that one. I ran at top speed from school to the park. By the time I got there, I was too out of breath to move another inch. Oh, good. I ran to the only place in town with a bench. My lungs were in desperate need of oxygen. As I gasped for air, I took a quick glance around the park. There was nobody here. The people I was afraid of, Shogun and Yua, were nowhere to be seen. Relieved, I decided to catch my breath. It was almost evening. The sky was slowly shifting from blue to the color of twilight. The park was as calm and quiet as ever, as if all the craziness at school had never happened. Now, earthquakes don't affect fields and serene spaces. In the end, ISA's jump was treated as an attempted suicide. She was carried off in an ambulance. I had no way of knowing what happened to her after that. Afterward, I'd given up on trying to find Arimi and ran all the way here instead. Yeah, that did happen. It happened like 5 minutes ago. Damn. I couldn't get what I just seen out of my head. When Ayase had jumped, when Ayase had fallen, I was sure she was dead. But she'd survived. I didn't know how, but she'd survived. She was breathing. She hadn't looked injured at all. A fall from that height should have killed anyone, but she'd miraculously survived. Because she'd fallen right on top of a soft flower bed. That's impossible. Physically impossible. There were no flowers there. Right until the moment she'd hit the ground, it had been an asphalt parking lot. Eat asphalt, asphalt eaters. A bunch of the teachers' cars had been parked there. So where had the flower bed come from? Who put that there? Did I do that? Did I do that? I remembered having a delusion that she might survive if there was a flower bed below. You said soft earth. But that didn't mean, could a delusion that only lasted an instant like that really become reality? Maybe I really did have some kind of special power. I'd already seen something similar happen when Ayase split into two people before. Could I even do something as incredible as making a flower bed appear out of nowhere? Even without a D-sword. And that flower bed was still there after she'd fallen too. Some teacher was going to go park there because that's his parking spot, and he'd have been like, what the fuck? Who planted these flowers here? When the teachers had run over to her, they'd left footprints in the dirt. The flowers, I think they were the same flowers as the ones in the courtyard. had snapped at the stems when the EMTs had walked over them. It was probably still there, too. My delusion had become reality, and stayed that way. It hadn't disappeared like the other Ayase. And what was more, everyone had accepted it as natural. No one had wondered why there was a flower bed there. He paved parking lot to put up a paradise. Had I done that?
Oi.
Oi. I heard a sharp voice calling out from behind me. It's got to be one of the 4 characters in the game. Before I even had time to resist, I was slammed hard into a piece of playground equipment. Blah, blah. I hit my back hard and moaned in pain. Punch. I didn't do it. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Yeah, I got no proof. It was Senna who had attacked me out of nowhere. She was yanking my collar hard, too. I couldn't breathe. I tried flailing my arms around, but she didn't let go at all. There was an intense light in her eyes that might have been murderous. I shivered, shaking my head frantically, thinking she was gonna kill me. I'll do what I want. I'm gonna lie to you. Senna's hot breath tickled my cheek. Dude, now is not the time. Her face was so close. I was worried she might bite me. I'm so mad at you, I just wanna... Why was this woman so violent and scary? Save me. Somebody save me. Absolutely not. Gwa! Huh? Is the cosmic? What? Senna's voice sounded tense. I never heard her like that before. Granted, I've only interacted with her like twice. But I didn't know what she meant. All I could do was frantically shake my head. Girl, don't you have a sword? You made a train appear out of nowhere. You... Oh, that's why. I'm just more powerful than all of you. Leave me alone. Nobody taught me anything, but if anyone had, it was Ayase. I couldn't breathe. I was going to suffocate. I was passing out, dying. I couldn't stay awake. Bye-bye. Just before I passed out, Senna suddenly let go of me. I collapsed where I stood. Gwa-ga. I coughed and tried to force as much air into my lungs as I could. What the hell was going on? Was Senna my enemy after all? Was she working with Shogun too? Oh good, a new demon girl. If so, I had to get out of here. No shot. What the hell was the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light? I'd never even heard of them. Senna saw my confusion and looked momentarily annoyed, but finally stopped glaring at me. She sighed. She didn't sound apologetic at all as she turned to leave. It looked like she didn't intend to hurt me after all. If that was the case, then... time to roll up the sleeves and ask for her fucking manager. I worked up my courage and spoke. I thought she'd ignore me, but she stopped and turned back. She was still frowning, but at least it looked like she would listen to me. Senna knew something. She'd asked if I was the one who'd created the flower bed. Everybody else there ended up thinking that the flower bed had been there from the start, but for some reason Senna knew differently. My delusion? Yeah, it was, but... Oh, sick.